It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
That's part of where the industry may have gone wrong is we're holding up these enormous commission numbers and celebrating that. That's actually not the way our group operates. The end result of all of the hard work is obviously the payoff. But if that's your motivation, you won't actually be using that moral compass that we talked about. You need to act with purpose.
And that is Lisa Pennell, the CEO of Barry Plant. We'll be getting back to that conversation in just a moment on the Real Estate Breakfast this morning as we launch into another episode with more of your property information and connecting you to the largest real estate podcast library across Australia, 7 days a week, with over 1,000 of those episodes for you to choose from. Well, it's a Tuesday morning, April the 22nd. How was the Easter break for you? Mine, I have to say, was fantastic. Didn't go away. I have the beach right on my back doorstep, caught up with some friends and recharged my sleeping. I've got to tell you the story here. I bought a new bed last week. After realising my mattress was 13 years old, I could feel one of the springs coming through on the shoulder and thought, yeah, now's the time to change the mattress. And man, oh man, the Easter sleep-ins were fantastic. Now, last week, political campaign launches made one thing very crystal clear, and that is that this election is a full-on bidding war for younger voters. Labor and the Liberals both dropped major housing promises, but the Liberals took it up a notch with a surprise $1,200 tax offset and a controversial plan to make mortgage interest tax deductible. Critics say that is just going to push the prices even higher. Meanwhile, Labor's promising 100,000 new homes, making this election, no doubt about it, a housing battle royale with Gen Z and millennials caught right slap bang in the middle of all of that. Well, right now, let's welcome into the Real Estate Breakfast Lisa Pennell, the CEO of Barry Plant. And good morning to you, Lisa. Great to have you on. We are back after the Easter break, which came and went, as I say, way too quickly. How did you enjoy your break?
I always love the opportunity off, Craig, so I took good advantage, as did you. Sleep is always a premium in today's world.
Absolutely. And as far as your organisation is concerned, they're very much Victorian-based. You were saying off-air to me around 70 offices, keeping you pretty busy as CEO for almost 2 years.
Absolutely, and a Victorian brand that just has so much deep history. You know, I consider it to be one of Melbourne's true legacy real estate brands. So it's an absolute pleasure to be working with the group.
Now, you've come from, I think it's fair to say, an unconventional path to the top. You came from PwC accountant, and from there you went to mobile tech leader. Is that right?
I was in the telco industry, that's right, for several years. When it was emerging, Optus came to Australia and mobiles became a thing.
And how is 2025 been going for you?
Incredible, I've got to say. We're 2 years into a transformation project here to really reinvigorate the Barry Plant brand, and came out of the gates hard in the early part of the year, and we're completely overwhelmed to have been awarded the Large Network of the Year at the Industry Awards in February. So early, very surprising, but also very excited. So that's stepped everything up into yet another gear for what looks to be a fantastic year ahead.
Yeah, congratulations on that. Tell us a little bit about the focus on tech and branding, consumer trust and all of that.
Great questions. Well, in terms of branding, I think with branding, it's really important that you show the heart of the business. And Barry Plant is, very humble, accepting brand. And so when we rebranded the business, it was really important that we were relatable, that it was a brand that showed our diversity and acceptance. And so we went a little bit left of centre to traditional real estate marketing in Victoria, which is quite monotone in a lot of ways. And navy blue is a bit of a favourite. We've actually been thrilled to be awarded the industry awards in the design space for that rebrand, and it's been really well accepted. In terms of tech is becoming increasingly prevalent in every organisation, and AI is certainly taking that to another level. From my perspective, it's really important we have cutting edge tech but it can't replace the really important part of the relationship with the customer. So while tech can sort of take away some of those administrative or basic functions, and that makes our agents a lot more effective, it's really important to us that that doesn't come between us and our customers.
Yeah, and just sort of drilling down on the AI, because you'll be right across this. Are you surprised, especially over the last 12 months, some of the things that are being talked about in the AI space with real estate and just where that is going to make things a lot easier?
I think there are certainly some really great things about AI. Like I say, there are some things that really concern me that can be confusing for consumers. It's really about using that technology in a way, as I say, that we can take away the basic functions that don't require that human interaction. But we all need to remember that transacting property is one of the top 10 stresses in life. A computer's not going to hold your hand, whether it's a tenant, a landlord, a buyer or a seller, that we are actually human to human.
Yeah, and that's really important. You mentioned that there's a little bit of concern around the AI. Where's your concern? I'd be really interested to hear that.
I saw a presentation at a tech event where the person on stage was showing agents how to create videos where AI can create the video of the person and in fact can have the voice speaking in a different language. That's fine as long as that agent is disclosing at the beginning of the video that it's an avatar and, you know, the language that they're speaking on screen. I'm concerned if AI is not used and used transparently with consumers. So I think it's fine to use those sorts of things. They can be really helpful, but it's really important that we're disclosing to customers if they're interacting with AI as opposed to a human being. And that's probably where my concern lies, you know, that agents understand that, and do consumers understand what they're dealing with?
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting point. And you're right, because it is a shortcut, and there is this temptation, I guess, from agents to say, well, I'm just sort of not going to say anything because this is so realistic. Why should I say something when I can be getting the benefit off the back of this? And that's where the transparency creeps in, doesn't it?
And that's where ethics and honesty has to underpin. If you're acting with integrity, then you won't make the wrong decision in that space. If you're not thinking about the moral compass, or you're not considering the customer as a person as opposed to a part of the transaction or the pivot point of the transaction, we have a problem.
Yeah, integrity and that moral compass, that's exactly what you've got to link together with the AI and all of this new stuff that is coming, especially what we're going to see in the next 2 years. Now, getting back to the fundamentals, because it all really deals with people interacting with other people, you're pretty hot on sort of being committed to mentoring talent there at Barry Plant. So important, you know, to give a new person coming through all of the skills, the tools, and the right sort of messaging and advice to set them up to give them some sort of a chance, a realistic chance to last a little bit longer beyond that 12-month threshold where so many of them are dropping out.
Again, the pivot point for that cultural piece is the director in office. I absolutely have adored building a high-performing team here at our head office, and we have a great team in the corporate environment, and we have a great group of directors. So our focus, particularly this year, is on leadership. How do we all elevate, myself included? I don't believe that good culture is separate to high performance. I think that if you're performing well as a team, that is job satisfaction. So I don't think, I think culture is all about high performance as well, creating job satisfaction, helping people reach limits that perhaps they never believed that they could. That's the real joy. And of course, that's where you get great outcomes as well, because if my people feel safe, if our directors' people feel safe, and they're then going to show up their very best for the end customer.
Yes, these lofty goals where people go down the rabbit hole, and we've talked about this before. New agents look at things on television, they might be looking at social media, they might be looking at the way that things are being painted in such a way that it's like, yeah, I could probably achieve that. They go into real estate with an unrealistic expectation. And I guess you, as the head of an organisation, you've got to kind of put those parameters in place where it's like, yes, you can achieve that, but this is the sort of track that you've got to take in order to do that.
Well, and I think too, that's part of where the industry may have gone wrong is we're holding up these enormous commission numbers and celebrating that. That's actually not the way our group operates. the end result of all of the hard work is obviously the payoff. But if that's your motivation, you won't actually be using that moral compass that we talked about. You need to act with purpose, and, providing that framework so that people can act with purpose within our business and act according to the Barry Plant values. And again, outcomes assured, we all like to make a good living. That's fine. But if that's your motivation, your chances of actually getting there and building a sustainable business are wrong.
Yeah, because if you look at social media, well, go back before social media, you didn't actually have the problem where people, I don't really like to call them chest beating, because the high performance real estate agents, they are bragging with very good reason. They're number one in their market. They're doing all of the sales. But prior to social media, you didn't have all of that so visibly and in plain sight for younger people to look at and then aspire to. So it does create that sort of false narrative, which at the end of the day, you've got to rein that in a little bit.
Well, I'm really fortunate here at Barry Plant. The very first high performers event I went to was fascinating, Craig, particularly given my previous history where I was used to certain patterns of behaviour from high performing agents. And I went to this fantastic event, as they always are, beautiful places, beautiful wines, beautiful food. But I was looking around the room thinking, these people just look like normal people. They're talking like normal people. They're not carrying, $10,000 handbags or doing other things that that might be part of that caricature of a real estate agent. They're just normal humans. And that's one of the things I absolutely love about this group is that, even the high performers are very normal and very relatable and very humble. We're not a group that grandstands about, writing millions of dollars. It's just not the way we operate.
All right, well, it certainly sounds like you've got both feet firmly planted, and good luck with the 2025 year and beyond. Great to catch up on the real estate breakfast this morning. Very hard, of course, coming back after the Easter break, but enjoy your Tuesday.
Thank you so much, Craig.
We are more than just a real estate podcast. We cover a multitude of subjects, including property data, current buyer-seller sentiment, and the mood of the market. Follow each week all of the main talking points and know your property.
And right now it's time for another property tip, and this time we are going into the east of Melbourne. Once again, catching up with Simon Burns, an award-winning real estate agent. Simon, what have you got for us this morning?
I think the best advice I can give is the best research you can do is the research you do yourself. Don't rely on others to do that. There are a lot of buyers agents around. By all means, use them, but do your own research to make sure you're getting the best deal.
Yeah, so when somebody is engaged with a buyer's agent, I think the key thing is just don't automatically assume that the buyer's agent is going to know everything. I think that's what you're saying. Do the due diligence, and then you can talk to the buyer's agent and say, look, are you covering this ground?
Yes, 100%. I feel that if you've got a buyer's agent and you're very comfortable with them, 100% go with that person. And if they align with what your feelings are and in investing in the market, look at those people.
House prices are accelerating about twice as fast as wages are growing, which means it gets increasingly more difficult to save a deposit, an increasingly higher amount of stamp duty required, and then an increasingly higher amount required to actually fund the debt on a home. So unaffordability is probably going to continue to get worse, unfortunately.
Buyers are definitely out in force, and if we see more rate cuts, there's only going to be more lending and more money, and I think it's going to be a very interesting 12 to 24 months in real estate if we see those further cuts.
We made them way more money than they thought, so we split every dollar over the top price they thought they could achieve, and they were so happy that they flew me down to Melbourne for the day to pick finishes for their new build, which they were trying to maximise the value of because that was a development, and it was so much fun.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.